I do believe in some people doing the market research, but they do the market research with the same people. The answer is the same what they wanted to hear.
What I saw is that everyone was looking at past behavior. Past performance is not an indicator of how people are going to react in the future. When you have a major event, whether it's a pandemic or, we are in a tremendously polarized period politically right now. That has a big impact on how we think about products, how we buy. So that changes how we look forward. It can change our values, our behaviors.
How it can transition or start even change reprogramming what we have been building and reprogramming what we have been told for so long.
Do a lot more asking than telling. The interests of women and wine is so much different from what it is between men and wine. And that's something the wine industry needs to pay attention to as well.
I guess we believe we have all the answers. And because we have all the answers, you don't have questions.
I'm a customer. Tell me about your wines. And the first thing they went to was quality. Oh, it's the best quality. I said, I don't care. Everybody says that. Think about the people you remember when you meet. They're ones that ask you questions. They didn't ask us anything. What we do, what we think, anything. Are we interested in them?
Thank you, everybody, for watching the Vino Visionary episode. Today, I am here with someone in New York, like this afternoon for him and morning for me here in Australia. So, Jon, you'll be working on these like over 35 years, like market research, consumer research. Do you want to talk a little bit your all experience, and then you have been working so much in the wine industry as well. Do you want to just talk a little bit about yourself?
Well, actually, first of all, it's great to be here. So thank you. So rather than just charge into things, but actually, most of my background is really in advertising, but in the strategy behind advertising. I owned an ad agency for about 25 years. Started with just me in an office, and 10 years later, I had 90 employees, and we had about $60 million in annual billings. And we had a lot of great international clients and also clients in the U.S. too. We started with a lot of food and beverage. Food in terms of seafood, we did Norwegian salmon and Chilean salmon, then all of Norwegian seafood and Danish cookies, crackers, cheeses, and so we're doing that kind of work. And then somewhere along the line, discovered the wine industry. I think our first project was actually with Gallo. I think that's where everyone's first project is. And then we later became the agency for Glen Ellen, for Fetzer, and then started doing a lot of other work in the whole wine and spirits, some beer and some spirits business as well. The classic malts were a client of ours as well. And because of the clients that we had, and a lot of it were people that were outside the U.S., and so they really wanted to understand the U.S. consumer, they would hire or have us hire market research firms to do studies about their customers. And the market researchers would come back to us with a study, and I would always ask the same two questions. And the first question was, you've told us what this group believes, but can you tell us why they believe it? Because it's really the why that you need to know to understand how to motivate someone and how to speak to them. And they would always say no, because then we have to ask open-ended questions, and we can't really go through those and do all of that analysis. And of course, today we have AI, which helps us do all of that analysis. The second question I asked is, did you append any of the information that you got in this survey to individual database files? And at the time they said, no, we're not a database company, we're a market research company. And again, you've got a change in technology right now where it's pretty easy to build databases. And when I say append, it means taking every piece of information that you learn about someone and attaching it to their file in the database. So
Yeah.
I always wanted to uh, build a platform, a technology platform that would enable brands to understand the why behind the what that customers do. And that's basically what I've been doing for the last few years. I sold off the agency a while ago and then um, I did a lot of CEO coaching that led up to what I'm doing. And that was really built on just asking two questions. The first question was, tell me about your customers. What do they like? And they would tell me. And then the second question would be, how do you know? And then everything would kind of fall apart because they hadn't really done the research that's required. And so I learned that you need to talk to people, you need to listen to what they're saying. You can't go with what your internal bias is, what you think in the organization it is. And I think for the wine industry has been built largely by baby boomers.
Perception. Oh, baby
Yeah,
boomers, yeah.
yeah, and baby boomers really have been very interested in luxury travel, luxury wine, sort of acquiring the tastes and the materials of people that they admire, and that fits very nicely into the wine industry. Um, but the kids of baby boomers have grown up in that environment, and they've tended to say, well, there's more out there. And so they're more interested in community, sustainability, and social responsibility, and those kinds of things. So we're at a point. We've been at this point for a few years now, where baby boomers are starting to decline, and they're declining in there's attrition, obviously, and they're drinking less wine. And then you've got this younger group that's looking for um, different kinds of characteristics and aspects in the products that they are catering to. But the wine industry, in large part, is still talking to baby boomers, and you can't just take the same message and apply that to the younger generations because it's going to fall on deaf ears. And if if I think about when I was in my 20s, the messaging that went to my parents didn't mean anything to me. And I think most
Yeah.
people, if you look back at that time and then you go, well, if only somebody had asked me the questions and then had listened, then they would have known what I wanted. So I think a lot of um, what's needed now is a lot more asking and a lot less using internal biases to then develop marketing programs and strategy from there on. Um, so that I don't know. That's kind of a convoluted path to where I am
Yeah.
now.
Very interesting talk because I do believe that some people doing the market research, but they do the market research with the same people already in the business. So it's and then usually the people in already the business, the baby boomers, then the answer is the same what they wanted to hear. So it's a cycle.
Well,
They don't change.
I don't want to knock any market researchers that are in the business. I think there's some very good people that are there. Um, the 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 thing is, it's always what questions do you ask, and then also, um, are you applying your biases, whether you're a
Mhm.
researcher that's been working in the wine industry for a long time, or you're the winery itself, are you applying your biases, or are you really looking at what people are saying? And so I think it's more of how do you tend to, where does research fit into how you develop your marketing strategy and your business strategy? And it should tell you what customers want. Now, part of the problem is collecting all of the research and then going
Mm,
through the analytics. Now,
mm,
uh, I have a technology platform that does all of that, but there are a lot of other, it's obviously not the only one. There are a lot of others that are out there. And um, I think it is paying very close attention to what are the key indicators you're getting from your customer audience. It's also, and the thing that we do is we collect language. So we get that why behind the what. I had
mm.
a conversation with a a marketer at a winery, and I said, "Okay, how big is your database?" And she said, "Well, uh, it's around 50,000 people." And then I said, "Okay, how many people bought once but never bought again? But they're still on your database. You're still emailing them." And she said, "Oh, well, that's around 15,000, maybe a little bit more." And I then said, "Well, why didn't they buy again? What's the reason for that?" She said, "I don't know." Well, that's exactly what you should know. You need to go to those people and ask them, why didn't you buy it again? And not by giving them a multiple choice of your rating wasn't high enough or whatever, but as an open-ended question, asking them to tell you what the reason is. So I think there are a lot of, why do people buy from you? Why do they buy from your competitors? Uh, what do they want? What do they really want to learn? What do they want to know? Um, I think, and always asking why. I think those are really important questions for people to ask. Um, Now, I think the other thing is, when you look at the amount of emailing that's going on, um, do you know, Priscilla, do you know how many emails go out every day around the world?
Okay. I don't know the answer, but I do receive lots
All
of
right,
email kada ni ba open.
I'll tell you the answer. In 2025, it's 376 billion a day. A day.
What?
376 billion a day. That's going to go to over 400 billion.
376 billion a day.
Yeah. Now that's
Wow.
around the world. There are all kinds of purposes. But a lot of that, it's people selling everything. Now we did a lot of research and studying as to how do people answer their emails and go through them. And what we found is that particularly among young people, most, and this is borne out in statistics, most young people, about 75% or a little more, they use their phones for their emails. And I do the same thing. In the morning, I get up and I click that little edit button up in the corner, and I'll have 100 emails already at 7:38 in the morning, and I'll
Yeah.
go, I'll go delete, 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 delete. Oh, that's
I thought it was just me. I do the
okay.
same thing.
That's from a trusted source, so I'll keep that. Delete, delete. That's information I want to know. I'll keep that. So what you end up with, and then so this goes of those 376 billion, more than 90% go into spam folders or they just sit in email boxes. So I probably get, I have a one email box where I just get offers from different companies that are in the aspirational luxury space, which is where our company focuses. And almost all of them are offering discounts, especially, they're all transactionally focused.
Mm.
Transactions don't build relationships. Relationships build transactions. And that's
Agree
what,
100%.
whether it's the wine industry or any other industry, that's what you have to focus on. How do I build a relationship with the customer? Now, if you think back before um, digital times, well, even now, still, when you go into a retail store, you have a conversation with the salesperson that's there. And they ask you some questions about what you're looking for and might be about your lifestyle and any of that kind of thing. And then they make a recommendation. Now, whether you buy or not, you've established a little bit of a relationship with them. If they do a good job, you'll go back there next time. If they don't, you'll go somewhere else. But it's not like, if you take the email that says, you know, the email
Buy
will always,
here.
the email says, buy here, buy now. Here's a discount. That's just like the store that puts the sign up that says 50% discount on everything, business closing, everything must go. Okay. I suppose if the discount's low enough, you will go in, but you're not going to build a relationship that way. Now you have to apply, how do we build relationships just between us? We have a conversation, we ask each other questions. Okay. So what we have is a platform which enables brands to ask their customers questions, understand what they say, and then develop content that goes back to them in email form that
Personalized.
shows that you've listened. Okay. And so that works well. Now, there are some other things we do specifically, and I mentioned some of these things to you before. Customer lifetime value and net promoter scores are other things that we do. And they're both very common in millions and millions of businesses, but for some reason, they don't seem to be very common in the wine industry. And, when we think about customer lifetime value, maximizing customer lifetime value should be the purpose of every business, every winery that's out there. I want to get a customer and I want them to be a customer for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So what can I do? Which right there tells you the emphasis is not on transactions, it's on having a relationship with them. So what can I do to build that relationship? Asking lots of questions, giving them back what they're asking for, getting their stories, their interests, their needs, all of those kinds of things. Net promoter scores influence customer lifetime value because they tell you what the customer perception is. Now, net promoter scores were developed around 30, 35 years ago, and by Bain Consulting. And it's very simple. It's two questions. The first question is, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely is it that you would recommend our product, our wine, our vodka, whatever it is, to a friend or associate? Okay. 9s and 10s are considered promoters. 7s and 8s are considered passives. They're ambivalent. So, I mean, actually, most people would say 7 or 8 is pretty high. It's not in net promoter scores. And 0 through 6 is considered a detractor. So there's a formula that works, and the formula says you total up all of your 9s and 10s, you ignore the 7s and 8s, you subtract the total of the 0 through 6s, multiply that by 10, and that's your score. Okay. So if you have a score of 60 or 70, it's actually quite high. It's very rare to get a score of 80 or 90. But if you look at just the promoters, just the 9s and 10s, obviously because they're 9s and 10s, it's an extremely high net promoter score. Now, the second question to net promoter scores is, why did you why did you give us that ranking? So so people write language behind that. This is why I gave them a 9 or 10, or this is why I gave them a 5. Okay. So now you've got language behind that. Now, what we can do, we use AI to categorize that language. So we can tell you what all of those promoters say, what the detractors, what the ambivalents say. But what's really important when you relate net promoter scores to customer lifetime value is businesses you don't want detractors. You don't want those people. Let them go to your competition, to the winery next door, for that matter. What you want are promoters. So now, if you know the language that promoters use, if you know their habits, if you know what they like to drink, what they like to do, you've got a wealth of information to develop a marketing strategy and marketing tactics to go out and find other people like them. And that's going to increase customer lifetime value.
John, it's very good what you said, because it's I think the wine industry tried to promote it to everybody and want everybody. You're just teaching pretty much how we can select it. The one is most valuable to the business, and what we're gonna drive it then to what we want to, like the advocates, and they kind of recommend to someone, and they can actually build their community big and bigger. So it's a different way to think. I got to charge it like social media for different, like for the Wine Communications of Australia. I had many in my hand to look at the social media and digital strategy for many wineries to be able to judge who is doing well. And some of it actually then just told, like one of the strategy was simply like this: I wanted to sell for anybody who buy $20 a bottle. So that means there is no a target really, and in some of those mindset of people who actually is actually the title is specialist in marketing. So it's a very good to be clarified that, because I think we need, if you wanted to grow your business, we really need to talking about who actually care about your business, and then make it be valuable, and then making that community grow from then, instead to try to target everyone. I just wanted to give this example because I think that's a good way to matching up some of those thinkings, like then in the wine industry, some of those thoughts where people thinking I wanted to everybody like my wine, and they try to they mix the message so that they don't talk any language in the end, and then it became confusing. People don't buy if it's confusing, and I think it's just the strategy you put in that. It's a very good way to like what's the most value customers, and that's what we need to care about it. If someone's else coming along, great, but that's my message. That's the way I want it to be. My question is, like, when you saw your platform you showed me like last time, I found it very interesting because it is pretty much a focus on customers, but also the platform could understand the why behind. They have a lot of the different ways to calculate it and into metrics, what the data we have there, and also personalize the message according what the people enjoy, to build that relationships, not just transition. So why you did that? What's the gap you saw on these so many years, over 30 years in the advertising industry? The most business is not doing, and then that's why you just say, wait a minute, I'm going to create something, it's not there yet, to be able to give that to us, for people who understand it better, who actually buy the product. So what's the idea? How the idea come to your mind? What's the gap like?
I think it's what I saw is that everyone was looking at past behavior. And, it's like if you ever get an email from a stockbroker or an investment manager, at the bottom of the email, it always says something like past performance is not an indicator of the future. And that's true in marketing as well. Past performance is not an indicator of how people are going to react in the future. And you look at when you have a major event, whether it's a pandemic, or I mean, we are in a tremendously polarized period politically right now. And that has a big impact on how we think about products, how we buy. We're in an inflationary period right now, so that has an impact as well. So that changes how we look forward. It changes it can change our values, our behaviors. And I think if you think about your own life, maybe as what you were doing 10 years ago and what you're doing now, it's going to be quite different. So I think really all I saw And maybe it's because my father was a psychiatrist, and he was always looking he was looking at current behavior, I guess to some extent past behavior, but also how do we make a change to try and influence future behavior? And so I think it's a combination of things that got me to thinking about that. I also think that having been in the advertising business for so long, that you learn a lot about audience segmentation as well. You learn about audience segmentation and strategy. And I can't tell you how often um, I was teaching, before doing this, I spent a couple of years teaching strategy to mid-size public relations firms. And people, there's so much confusion between strategy and tactics. Um, and I would ask people, what's the strategy for this client? And they would give me five of them. And I would say, now tell me something. Um, how many directions can you run at the same time? And they would
Mm-hmm.
say, well, just one. So then why is the business any different? And it would turn out that all the things that they had listed as strategies were actually actions, which are tactics. So I think one thing, and I think in a lot of businesses, particularly small businesses, people sometimes confuse the two. And so I think it's very important, pick that singular strategy, that direction that you're going to go to help your business succeed, and then make sure every action that flows from it supports that strategy. So if I'm, just getting back to that, you want best customers, you want promoters. If you know the language they use, that's the language, and those are the topics you use in your social media, or that you use in your website. Because and this might be heresy. You don't want every customer.
No,
You want the
agree.
you want the promoters. You want the best customers. You want the ones that will be your brand ambassadors or your missionaries that will go out.
It's gonna be duplicate for you. That's pretty much how the business is building. Like that's actually blamed it to another topic I wanted to discuss with you, John, today. Is about community, because that's how you build community as well. At the moment, you will recommend to your friends, and they will happy to get your friends, and your friends is gonna be there, and then start to get this community involved. How the brains is, because like a lot of the people already were, community is the future. A lot of the people know everybody, but a lot of the people know for business, because it has been told it's like communities coming to everywhere. This word's coming from everywhere. A lot of the business strategy already recognize community, but I don't think if people know in the wine industry it's so much hierarchy. I tell you what to drink. I tell you how to drink. I tell you how many points, and then that's how we should value. It's a lot of the hierarchy industry. How it can transition or start even changing, reprogramming what we have been building and reprogramming what we have been told for so long to this word of community, because I think there is a big change in now. We wanted to be belong, find the belong, and also side, and this is going beyond of wine industry. Feel free to get some example how people build the community and outside of the wine industry to make people easier to understand the necessity of a human being now to be together, to be belong, and the need of that. And that's why hierarchy is struggling. And how we can adapt it to this mindset, what we can do, how we can start it. Feel free to give some examples from outside of the wine industry, so that's how we can relate it, and then make it that subjective, this topic, very easy for people to understand.
Well, I think so basically you're asking, how do you change from what you're doing currently to doing something new that you can have confidence in. And I think you can have confidence if you're listening to what your customers are saying. So I think it does begin with whether you do a large number of customer interviews and you start to segment who your customers are and how much are different segments buying from you, what are they buying, and the understanding why they're buying, then you can start to change your messaging as well. While you were asking, I was thinking, I a few years ago I um, was moderated a panel um, in Spain of some for the wine industry, and I had two people that were the senior marketing people from some very large Spanish wineries.
Mm-hmm.
I said to each of them, I said, "Well, okay, I'm a customer. Tell me about your wines." And the first thing they went to was quality. Oh, it's the best quality. I said,
Yes.
I said, I don't care. Everybody says that. And they said, well, it goes with all kinds of foods and things. I don't care. And I kept saying that, and we kept going through that, and they both got frustrated and said, I don't know, what do you want me to say? I said, that's exactly what I want you to say. I want you to ask that question. And
Love it, that John. Love that. That's a very good, like a very good way to make people reflect about these stuff.
now, so many wineries have um, tasting rooms, and
Mm.
people go there. That's a great opportunity, not just to, I think what often happens is you walk into the tasting room and somebody says, well, do you know our wines? Do you know our brand? Well, let me tell you about our brand. Okay, I would say stop right there. I would say, tell me about your lifestyle. Tell me about what you eat. Tell me about when you have wine, when you have a cocktail, when you have a beer. Start asking all of these questions about them. Then you can start to fit what you're saying to them. I did for uh, 4 or 5 years, I did television production for Julia Child, the famous cookbook author and TV cooking host. And so I often would go out with her and we'd go to a restaurant or something. And there were always, I mean, over the years, hundreds and hundreds of people that were coming up to her and saying, oh, Miss Child, I love your books. I cooking all these things. I go to certain, and she'd stop them. She'd put her hand out and stop them and say, well, tell me about what do you like to eat? And tell me about your cooking. And tell me, and she's like a barrage of questions. So she actually was the best market researcher I ever knew because every answer she was categorizing in her head, and it enabled her to really relate to the individual person. So when you see her old TV shows, what you see is somebody that really connects with you because she had all that information. I think tasting rooms are a great opportunity. It just depends how you use them.
I guess it's topic to just to say I'm awesome. Look at me. I know everything. I know all the answers, and to try to just make the questions first, like just questions, just asking questions. Like I guess it's just that change in the wine industry, like reprogramming the brain, because I guess we believe we have all the answers, and because we have all the answers, you don't have questions. Why are you
Think
gonna ask something new if you have other answers? So
right.
yeah.
Think about the people you remember when you meet. They're ones that ask you questions, or how often, my wife and I will go we'll out and meet somebody new and we'll say, they didn't ask us anything. They didn't ask us what we do, what we think, anything. Are we interested in them? It's the same thing. It's the same thing with wine or anything.
There's no
Um,
conversation. Yeah, it's just
yeah.
like this is not a talkie. That's not. I ask you answer, and we have a conversation. We have actually a relationship. Like I said, it's just like, look, I am here. I want you to buy my wine. Can you buy it? And then you feel, and then I guess they have something we always say: people love to buy, but people don't like to be sold. So
Yeah.
I think that's so true on the marketing industry, and you'll probably be in the marketing and advertising industry for so long. That's probably the pre-programming we need to do, because if you just talk about you, it literally you just want to sell, and people feel that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's why they turn away.
Yeah. You know, one of the other things which we had talked about before that I'd like to bring up is what the wine industry can learn from other industries as well.
Yes, I'd love
And,
to. Yeah.
you know, and I sent you, and I'll send it to anyone who's interested. We did a study of basically every wine report and prediction about the wine industry that's been generated over the last couple of years. And we did that through AI. It's a great use of AI to kind of analyze things that are out there. And then the AI came back. We asked for marketing recommendations, and it came back and said, um, it had some pretty standard marketing recommendations, which I didn't particularly like. And I had an experience that was a revelation to me, which is I went to a Sephora cosmetics store with my wife, and I walked in and I walked around and I said, "This is a wine store. You've got thousands of products, every color under the rainbow. Um, it's confusing as hell. There are people all over. There are people there that will help you, will explain the products, will show you, enable you to try the products. Then when you look at the products themselves, uh, they use natural ingredients. A lot of them are foreign ingredients. There's import export that's involved. Because they're natural ingredients, there's regulation, FDA regulation. There's so many similarities between skincare and beauty and the wine industry that um, what we did when we did this report is we told AI, go out and collect information about the wine industry, about the cosmetics, the skincare and beauty industry, and let's see how that would apply to the wine industry. And what came back was a whole set of tactics that maybe a few people in the wine industry have been doing, but I haven't been seeing it in any kind of a broad basis. But it was all about developing communities and getting people more involved based on what they're interested in. Again, what we were saying before.
So, how do you believe the wine industry can start to build community? Because I think I have a few people have spoke about the community. They start to think and try different things in community, but I think it still is the minority. I think the majority, they still thinking, I need to talk about quality. Exactly what you said. I just need to talk about quality. I've had this match with many foods. It's blah 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 on the table. All the complicated the smell and tastes and the notes. Most people don't even know what we talk about it. So all those cut-off food mentality is still present today in the majority of people. But here we wanted to bring a different perspective, a perspective of community. So it's not about how us you are, but how we can engaging with the group of people so they feel like they are advocated. They feel like people who be part of the business and they advocate for others. And that's how we will grow your business, by have this group of people who believe in your product and recommend your product to your friends. Because one of the things as well, we will feel questions in your platform is like, you recommend this wine to your friend. I think it's a great way to know if the person is actually advocate for you or not, because if they recommend it, it's more likely than be one of those people who you wanted for a long time in your business, because that's how they can promote your business. And we have people promoting your business, not just to you. So how we can drive it from this mentality that predominate the wine industry to this mentality what we just described it, and then we have a few people doing that. You have customers globally already with you in your platform doing that because they believe in on this different perspective. So just to give you as some tools how we can start to build community. And I tell as well, like how your platform can help with that as well, if that's okay, because I quite like that the last time is opportunity we can show here your platform, but I guess people can get in contact you and it can have a look at do a demo with you. But yeah, it's a very interesting way to understand and how we can the questions you made there. So if you could just
Well,
make some connections, it'd be
well,
nice.
let me, because I think you're right, is that the tendency is to say, okay, we'll have a webinar, we'll have a seminar, it'll be a lecture. So again, it's us telling you about the wines. What we did for one of our clients is through Net Promoter Scores, we were able to create a segment of people that were those nines and tens promoters that also specifically used language that said they love the product. And what we said to the client is if someone gave you a 9 or a 10 and they are telling you they love your product, that's a good candidate to be a brand ambassador. And being a brand ambassador is a community. So it's very simple to create that segment on our platform, and they're able to create a community of people that wanted to be brand ambassadors about their wines. And then you can have a whole series of activities and special events to create some connections between that community and your company. And that can happen in so many areas. You could, for example, find people that are interested in travel to wine regions, to your wine region, whatever it is, and you can create that community. But again, it's about their interests, not yours. That could be travel, it could be certain kinds of cooking, it could be kind of things to eat. And I think what happens in wineries is, okay, this week we're going to do wine and red meat. Next week we're going to do wine and fish. Next week, but you're just talking out to the masses. You're not talking to the people that you've already found that say, oh, not only do we want to hear from you, but we want to hear from everyone else as well. So it's just a different way of manipu of taking in the data and then manipulating the data, which not everyone can do.
Yeah, I just wanted to correct it. It's not manipulated, but also to personalized, I guess this would be better. Like because you know what the customers engage with, so you can personalize to their interests. So that's how you build communities on the different like on what they actually interested. So that's how we can sell your wine more. It's just like you one message that fits all. Because you can may send like a red meat with wine for someone is vegan, and they're not gonna be any really message there for them because they don't even eat meat at all. So I guess that's just the one of the things the platform of emoji actually doing is actually to personalize according with the interest of your customers. And it's better as well for the customers because if you message they're not interested, they probably you gonna break that relationship as well. So the relationship is building by having a conversation and you know each other. If you don't know each other, it's just like, okay, I just need to know about you, but you don't need to know about me. So what is the feedback? I
But
wanted to ask. Sorry.
I just wanted to add that another thing that we talked about is how the interests of women and wine is so much different from what it is between men and wine. And that's something
Yes.
the wine industry needs to pay attention to as well.
A very good question for that, John, because it's not just in US that something is happening, but also in Brazil. So the majority of people actually drink wine is actually a woman. So it is a very big change because it has been for a long, long time a man. But that's most people actually more interested in wine these days is actually a woman. That's changing a lot because it's we think it's different, we behave it different. Women really like belong. And I guess that's why community started as well, because I was telling my friend, we're going out last week, and we have this conversation woman to woman. It's like, men doesn't doing that, like talk about things with the feeling and things like that. Then the woman does, and we have this conversation through wine, and we're going to catch up with a wine to just discuss about feelings, and even the conversation we have with wine on the table is changing, because if the woman's predominant, so what we care about wine is changing as well. So we don't really. So I think that's this whole other mindset you need to think about and do some research to what's actually predominant, why women get so interested in wine, because that's why we need to be understand that phenomenon, and also what interested them and the moment they actually drinking, what then why they drink, what they drink, and things like that as well. Because I think that's probably one of the challenges now, is the prior type of people who drink wine majority is changing as well, and the woman doesn't like the same thing the previous generation demand. So we do have this different mindset between Gen Z, millennials, and boomers, but also the gender has changes as well. It's a lot of a change for the wine industry. How do you see wine brands or wine business in general adopting new strategies for these unpredictable changes?
I think it's like a lot of industries that are in that situation where um, the things are flat or they're even declining a little bit, is there's going to be some increased consolidation, and a lot of the smaller wineries will get sucked up by larger ones, which is unfortunate. I think that they're going to be thought leaders, and there'll be people lagging behind as well. In any industry, you can basically um, map out uh, how companies are doing based on a bell curve. And at the forward edge of the bell curve, so 80% will fit into the bell. At the forward edge, you'll find the thought leaders. And that
Mm-hmm.
does take place now, and it will continue to increase as in the future. At the end, there's that 5, maybe 10% that are sort of the laggards, and those are going to get sucked up by the people in the middle. From my standpoint, I want to talk to the thought leaders. Those are the customers I want, because I know that I can help them and they're going to love our platform and what they do. And that's the same behavior that every winery should have as well. How do I find among consumers the people that are the leaders, the best customers, and see what can I do to get those people?
John, we getting like over 46 minutes. I don't want to take so much of your time because it's very valuable. Can you just started to give us a little advices for the wine industry? Advices, sorry, 3 pieces of advice for the wine industry. How they can reprogram themselves, how we can use the data to help them to personalize the message, but also to build that relationship, and then not this transaction, buy here, get 6 wines and get 2 for free or whatever else. So they try to, how we can actually create a value for people, because I think people is losing the trust because the value is not there. The price is it's so about whatever the people put in their mind, and people don't know if they buy $20, they actually get a $20 a bottle. There's a lot of issues that we needed to fix it. But how we can bring, so like they do for themselves, like to build their trust with consumers, because I think trust is going to be something very important. Trust, belong, relationships, as we're going through this AI world, and we know that's bringing a lot of the amazing things like personalized message, but also bring a lot of the different things we can't control, like the trust. How we can actually thinking about those issues, how the three pieces of advice from you, how we can actually go from here to the future, to 2026, because we need to, the future is today, because what you do today is gonna make your future. So it's important people understand that. So your future is now, because whatever the decisions you make today to understand your customer, to understand where your brain's going, is actually going to drive your future. So how can change what are they doing, your reprogramming their mind to try something different today for it to be relevant tomorrow?
Well, I mean, the first one, which we I think have covered, is do a lot more asking than telling. I mean, that's and they're at every point of contact that you have with a customer, use that as an opportunity to ask rather than tell. So that's certainly one. I would say second, look outside yourself for the way other people are doing things. So that's why I brought up the skincare and beauty industry, because there are a lot of similarities there that the wine industry can learn from. And there may be other industries as well, but look and see what others uh, are doing. Um, and third, um, I think past behavior is important. I think it does tell you how you've done in the past, what's worked and hasn't worked, but also um, look for what's happening today and what you believe is going to happen tomorrow. Now, those are all they're all generalizations, but they all have specific steps that you can take behind them. And there's data behind each one of those as well. And that's, you mentioned people, there's sort of a fear, there's a love and a fear of AI. Um, if you use it for the right purposes, it's fantastic. And we do a lot with it. And it's not like just writing a one question prompt. I mean, if you looked at my prompts, they're like 500 to 700 words, because we're trying to get very specific in what you get. So use AI, use it as a tool, not for writing, use it for analytics.
So that's pretty much what you do today in the platform, to be able to analyze as much the data, because we actually provide some value for the Rethink the Wine Industry newsletter, but also we have been writing and have some report yourself by analyze many other reports and use AI to get a final data by analyzing many reports. Just explain that to me a little bit more. So that's what was there one of the things you do in Emoji?
Well, we've done that with wine consumers, where I think there were about 120 different sources of information that were analyzed and then came out with a profile, recommendations. And then that's when we interjected the skincare and beauty. We've also done it for the advertising industry as to what is advertising going to look like in 20 years from now, what are agencies going to look like. And there, I think it was 115 different data sets, projections, and things there. So it's a lot of information. It's not just getting ChatGPT and writing in one question and getting in something like that. So I'm happy to talk to anyone about all of this stuff. And I think what your listeners or viewers would probably be interested in is the report that we did on U.S. wine consumers. Just have to contact me, and I'd love to demo our platform for you, and we'll send you the report as well.
Yeah. Jon, I would say I don't know how much we can actually be thank you for giving your time, your knowledge, and your experience on advertising marketing as well. But also to brainstorming tools for us to help us to understand the customers better and the why of they do what they do and how we can create community. So thank you so much for this interview. Thanks so much for donating your time to people understand. But just one question before I go. It was in my mind and I forgot to ask. Your metrics is very different of the most metrics of people. And then you told me like some things for the last time you have spoke, like NPL, all those kind of things. I don't think the wine industry really understand that metrics. Can you just give like just to finalize that interview with a briefly talking about this metric as you use it and why it's important?
So the metric is Net Promoter Scores, or NPS, and it's an indication of consumers' attitudes and perceptions about your product. And if you Google NPS or Net Promoter Scores, you'll see a ton of information on it. It's a very valuable metric because it helps you identify your different segments of customers.
And it's so important because you be able to personalize your message with AI come along as well. So I think that's pretty much why we need to do things the way you do. So thank you, Jon, for so much for today. I hopefully that was a very useful tools and conversation. And I like it because beyond of the community and stuff, you're giving a lot of good class about marketing and advertising industry. I think was incredible, valuable on this conversation, on this podcast. Thank you so much for donating your experience and how psychology people like the work, all these connections and connection with as well with some of the art industry like the built industry. So everything was very valuable. Thank you so much for everything you have done today. And hopefully we can be in touch again for another podcast when we can explore new opportunities for the wine industry. Thank you so much for being one of the futurists in the wine industry, to be one of the visionaries and then bringing new tools for the wine industry. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It was great to be here.